All right, everybody, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Zocalo. This is your one-stop shop for all things Babylon 5. And guess what? That includes Crusade tonight. I'm Char, and as you can see, Norm is not here. We have another person I would like to introduce to you all if you have not been a long-time viewer of the show, Mr. Phillip Gilfus, my guest co-host for the night. Thank you so much for joining me.
Sure, thanks, sir. I'm always happy to talk the world of Babylon 5.
Yes, you have been on the show before, but it was some time ago, and it might have even been back in the days when we were on Facebook Live, which unfortunately is no longer a thing. We're here for YouTube now in all posterity. So if we could top off the show, start off the show, top it off. That sounds like a cap off, like we're ending it, and we're like, what, a minute in? No, we're not doing that. Let's try that again. I would love it if you could inform everybody a little bit about your B5 background. How did you get into the show? When did you get into the show? And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty about which Crusade opener is better.
Sure, if I remember correctly, because now I'm old and mind-fuddled. I believe in high school, and that's when it was airing at the time, because I'm old. I believe one of my best friend at the time, because we were big Trekkies, both of us.
Yes.
And so I think maybe I got him into it. But anyway, he was talking about this other series that he was watching, and there's a series where they didn't have shields, which is crazy. For their ships.
Oh my God, right?
Yeah, and all this stuff. And so he talked me into watching Babylon 5. I'm trying to remember when I would have started. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I want to say it was probably season 3. It wasn't too early.
Okay.
So, but
Midway,
so I remember watching it. I remember when they changed channels on us and finishing up that way. So yeah, no, and then been watching it ever since and catching up and everything else. And I have my my B5 bookcase there with my B5 encyclopedia and one of JMS's script books and my action figures and all that stuff.
Nice. We have very similar collections in that respect. I've got script books, I've got the B5 encyclopedia, some action figures, and then I've got a mug that Norm got me that's like a beer glass with B5 frosted on it. That's about it. and a few other books, but that's just about it. So yeah, cool. And you and I have reviewed Babylon 5 before.
Yes.
A couple of years. Well, it's been what now? 3 years
yes,
since you talked me into getting the DVDs, and we did season by season reviews on Filibuster back when that was kind of the miscellaneous show on the Nerd Party. And we did go through Crusade, and that was the first time I watched Crusade. Mm-hmm. Now, you watched Crusade when it aired, though, right?
I'm trying to remember. I want to say yes. I want to say yes. I was going to say yes. And then,
okay,
did they? Sorry, this is my. Did they? I don't think they aired the whole series. Did they? Maybe they did. I can't remember. Yeah, no.
No, they had more ready to go through the pipeline, and TNT pulled the plug. And no.
Yeah, I think that was, and I can't remember. Someone can yell this out. How many episodes aired on TNT? But I remember then, like, eventually, not like right away, but eventually. Because this is when I was young and poor, but eventually wanting to get the DVDs because like, I want to see the whole thing. I want to see the whole thing, and then I saw the whole thing, and then went from there. And then so like every 5 years of my life, I'm like, what was Crusade like again? And so then I watch it again. So I think when I had you watch it, that was my third time, and I keep seeing if my opinion will change.
Okay, yeah, I have a feeling. I haven't revisited Crusade a whole lot. I certainly don't know it as well or as long as I've, been into Babylon 5. It's a very different thing for me. It's not as endeared to me, but maybe the more that I watch it, the more I'll really kind of get what they were really trying to go for. Because I kind of feel like I still don't fully get Crusade just yet. I know that there's fans in the B5 fandom who adore Crusade. I want to understand where that's coming from. Maybe I'll get there. And that's not to say that I hate Crusade. It's just I really don't love it as much as Babylon 5. I'm going to put that out there. You can at me if you want. That's fine. That's fine. Hot take. So we have a few people joining us live, which is fantastic. I want to say hello to BC and Earl, Summer, Super Dave, and Terry Lynn. Hello, how are you all? Good to see you all. These are all folks who join us fairly regularly, and many of them are on the Discord channel, which is something that you can all, if you are not on there, can join. I'm going to post a link to join it into the chat right now. Philip, that applies for you too. If you want to get all fancy, that's where we continue the conversation after the live show is over. Plus, we just kind of talk generally, and we've created a small but really cool, tight-knit community, and it's just like-minded B5 fans. We have a lot of fun there. So, Crusade. I did not realize way back when we did that very first watch, that the airing order for this show has a few versions. So we have the TNT airing order. Mm-hmm. We have JMS's order for when the show aired in reruns on the Sci-Fi Channel in 2001 and 2002. And then we have the chronological/correct order as directed by JMS. So for two of those, we have Warzone, and that is the TNT order as well as the chronological order. And then Sci-Fi, though, leads with Racing the Night. And so we're going to compare Warzone with Racing the Night today. And we're going to see if one stands out as a better introduction to the series than the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so that's going to be interesting.
It kind of made me think of original Babylon 5, and I will try not to make any Star Trek references because I'll make a million if I have to. But
but
Babylon
you're going
5,
to.
Well, I was going to say, original series Star Trek, of course, did not start with the original pilot. Not even the original pilot. It started with Salt Vampire. It's breaking my mind for a second with the name of the episode. But anyway, that was even the first aired episode of Star Trek. TOS was not the first pilot. And then Where No Man Has Gone Before was like the third episode. And then The Cage you never saw unless you knew someone.
Right, and we could get into there's production order and we've got the kitchen sink order, the random drunken episode order that it doesn't even matter. It's all made up. However you watch Crusade is however you want to watch Crusade at this point. That's how I feel about it.
That's right. Freedom. But even for Babylon 5, I don't think I don't know. The audience can say how they came to it. But I don't know if a lot of people saw The Gathering. Maybe they did. And,
You're dealing with some diehard B5 fans here who were with the show practically from the beginning, before I was watching it. So, yes, they watched it.
but I think the common, casual, that's what we say in the Big Brother reality show world. There's casuals and there's... Anyway, so for the casuals, they probably saw the first episode of B5, Midnight on the Firing Line. Am I correct? Okay, I think so.
Yeah.
Which, is kind of a repilot, but,
I agree.
And it's been a second since I've seen it, but it doesn't necessarily, this is everyone showing up, like The Gathering is, everyone's showing up. And I think,
right.
And we'll get into it, but Warzone is everyone showing up, and then Racing the Night is we're all here. And so, there you can approach about which way is the better way to start. With Star Trek TNG, that just starts. Encounter at Firepoint, we're all, they do pick up some few people, but, we're here, we're going. Whereas
we're
all
doing
the other
mission.
The other starts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much the structure that I had too. So before we get into that, though, I do want to point out that BC does mention in the Discord chat, if you would like to talk about cats, we do that a lot. And I know that you have a cat. So
there's a
by
cat
all
in this
means,
house. I don't know whether I have a cat, but there's a cat in this house. Yes.
Okay, that's a distinction to make for sure. If you want to share photos, by all means, you are welcome to partake. And of course, before we really officially get going, this is not a show without our salute. So do you have a beverage on hand? It does not have to be alcoholic. Oh, you've got Yoo-Hoo. Hey, cool. You're getting nutrition.
You have to blur the branding, right? That's right.
Hey, Yoo-Hoo, would you like to sponsor? All right, so with that, Val 2. I am, as usual, doing my vodka-flavored vodka drink. Earl would like to know, have you not been nibbled to death by the aforementioned cat?
I try to stay on the sofa, so, the floor is cats.
I see.
Yeah.
The floor is... Oh, no!
Right.
Well, cat hair, as the case might be, during shedding season. Good golly.
I'm always wait, let's just have wood floors from now on, because what's the point otherwise?
It's so much easier. It really is. We have carpet upstairs, wood floors downstairs. Guess which one is easier to clean? And guess which floor the cat likes to puke on?
Yeah.
Every time. Anyway, this show's not about cats. Let's talk Crusade. So let's start off with Warzone. since it is it is the preferred, I guess, of two of three versions of airing order. Does that automatically mean it wins because it has the majority? 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
It's the DVD order. I mean, I think that wins. You're popping it open.
I forgot to mention DVD order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat that.
This is basically the making the band version of putting Crusade, because everybody gets an introduction, which I think is great. It's a great strength to introduce people to the show. These are the characters. This is where they're coming from. Everybody kind of gets that little moment in the spotlight, which is great because nobody is overlooked. A lot of times that happens. So that's cool.
I know, I don't know if you know that this is my official Babylon 5 drinking game, but, every time they mention Mars, you know how I feel. I always have Garibaldi's
Can't
reaction.
Believe I'm back on Mars.
Damn, it had to be Mars. And so I'm like, every time, Mars. It's going to be trouble every time there's Mars mentioned. And so,
It's true.
I do like the, they don't say this, but I like it's like previously on Call to Arms, and then you get the, how do we encapsulate the TV movie into 30 seconds? And that's what they do.
Yes. We should mention that A Call to Arms basically was the backdoor pilot for Crusade. So I don't consider either of the episodes we're talking about today to be the pilot. They're just the first episode, sort of like Midnight on the Firing Line.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a Call to Arms to understand Crusade. You can just jump right in. But it's there if you want it.
Yeah, this one with Warzone, like I said, there's no right answer, but comparing the two and philosophy, looking at it from how you like to write or how you like to watch, the assembling the team, because this is, in my opinion, a very slow episode. It's a very establishing episode. It's a lot of like, let's establish, and that's not a criticism, but it is what it is. Whereas, Racing the Night is everyone's here, let's go, but they still introduce everyone kind of subtly. So
they do.
So I don't know if JMS's opinion, which, it's what everyone can have an opinion. Just because he has one doesn't mean you have to agree with it, even though he wrote it. But I think his opinion might be like, it's better just to tell the story rather than like, let's set up the story for a whole episode. Because it's kind of, I'm not saying this is boring, but I'm saying that's boring to like just spend time just establishing to establish. Let's just do it and you learn as you go.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if we're getting into personal preference, my pick does go to Racing the Night just because I do like the whole let's just jump in and go. I feel like story structure wise, it's got more going on where, yes, you are introducing kind of the overall theme, which is we've got this 5-year clock. 5 years? Coincidence? I think not. For the Earth, or what's the Drakh plague? It's hitting Earth. And so we've got the mission overall. We know what the end goal is. But at the same time, we have that story within the story where it's kind of self-contained. Something happens here. It's got some mystery. And it introduces some kind of really running themes throughout the show, like Gideon's box of secrets, whatever you want to call that, at the very end. So it adds a little more mystery, a little more intrigue. And at the same time, you still learn what the show's about.
Yeah, I think Warzone is, I don't know. You've never played RPGs, have you, Char? Well, I know you've played. Much. I know you've done one that I've done, but that's a whole different world. But like, you've never done the like, all right, everyone go around and introduce your character. And they're like, hi, I'm the dwarf. Hi, I'm the rogue, which I think that's what Warzone is. We have our thief character.
Yeah, right.
We have our wizard. We have our, so it's like I said, it's a slower episode. So I mean, it is what I can see why JMS maybe have not been enthusiastic about this being his initial instinct for what the first episode should be. But if we do get to learn a little bit about where our people come from, so.
Yes. Also, I notice in both of these episodes, the introduction to the Excalibur, our ship, not a whole lot. You get maybe one decent shot, and that's just about it. And I feel like as far as action scenes go, they have two different brands going here.
Yes.
I agree. Warzone doesn't have as much action, but it starts off with a good old-fashioned fist fight and establishes Gideon as kind of like, hey, look, I'm the captain. I'm in charge. Here's how I operate. But then we have a lot more pew-pew-pew fighting in Racing the Night.
Yeah,
which do you prefer?
I'm always like, I'll talk first episode and the second episode, but I do want to contrast something here. They both have, as I guess maybe most episodes do, they both have the fighter scenes, the fight scenes in both episodes. Whereas like in Racing the Night, the fighter episode, where the outside ship fighting is what I'm talking about. Like it seems much more traditionally B5, but in a good way. Like you're paying attention. The music, well, music we'll talk a lot. But anyway, it's all kind of, this is purposeful. Whereas like Warzone, it's almost like we have a fight, but it's just there. It's background. Don't pay attention to it. I mean, like it's almost like
not right now.
I don't even know how to describe it unless you've seen the episode recently. But it's just like there's this fight, but it's like it's just it's like it's not the focus. I'm like, oh, well, then why are we even doing it? I guess.
That's a very good question, because by the time you get to the end of that episode, you've all but forgotten what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess in a way that is pretty ineffective. And especially as something to start off with, it didn't even matter, did it?
No.
Okay, that's a strike against Warzone.
No, yeah, and I don't know if we should wait, but I feel like I believe Earl Green or someone brought it up, the CGI Gideon in Racing the Night. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Okay. That's a major strike against this episode, in my opinion. It is, I mean, it's kind of so bad looking, it's good in kind of a hilarious way, because you know what? It reminds me of a sim. He looks like a freaking sim. He just needs the green diamond glowing over him. So,
You should have had an exclamation point over his head or something. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Seriously. I know that the CGI was probably a little more difficult back then, and I know that they're trying to portray it as it's not real, it's not actually him, but it's not good. That has not aged well at all.
And see, that's interesting. I don't know from the filming perspective. Why not have it be him? Because I mean, you could just be with Tim. I mean, I guess showing the organs coming out might be a little hard. But if the decision is it's going to be CGI. And I wish they had known that it wasn't going to be great. So, like, he could say something. Like, Galen could be like, look, it's not perfect, okay? Or, and like, or the captain could be like, that's you? And they're like, we do what we can.
Hey, look, my programming skills are not the greatest, okay? I might be a technomage, but we aren't programmers, all right?
Like, you want to do this, Captain? Well, then,
Right. Yeah, that sticks out like a sore thumb to me, but I would love to know from those of you who are viewing right now, what did you think when you watched it back when it first aired? Did it look out of place to you, or was that just the way things were back then? Because like I said, I watched this no more than about 3 years ago, and it does not go very well with my head. So I would love to know your opinion on that. Another advantage that Racing the Night has right away is that they're in that briefing room scene, right, which is actually a dream. There's a callback to John Sheridan. So B5 fans, I think, going right into Crusade can't help but appreciate that a little bit, because I understand it wants to be its own show, and yet it's in the same universe, and it's a very subtle nod, just like, hey, Babylon 5, we're here for you. You're here for us. It's cool.
Yeah, at the time, or Racing the Night, in other words, as I've not said already, Crusade's not necessarily my favorite, but watching Racing in the Night, and when I watched it second after Warzone, but I watched it, I'm like, okay, this is the first episode, and it really works, like, because the dream sequence is a little weird at the beginning, but it sets a tone, and I feel like one thing, if it's trying to do this, it really establishes who the captain is. I mean, if you're saying he's the main character, which he is, I guess, who's driving it. And I think you kind of start to establish, like, this is who this captain is, from that dream sequence, and even from that beginning part there about, like, who do we want to lead this and all this stuff. And everyone kind of gets reintroduced. Like, again, if Jameis wrote this as the first episode, I don't know whether he meant to. If he did, it works. If he didn't, it inadvertently works. It's always like, oh yes, it's Max. He's our IPX guy. Like, oh, it's the doctor who, oh, it's Galen. He's right. I'm like, like when you watch it, you're like, they're obviously introducing everyone. And I was like, oh, I wonder.
Right. So when you're watching it in the TNT order, for instance, I believe Racing the Night is 9th.
Yes.
In the watch order. Why do we need to reintroduce everybody? Like, what is really going on here? Again, it's been a little while since I've watched Crusade all the way through. And I do remember, though, when I watched the Sci-Fi Channel order, it made more sense to me. I'm just going to put that out there. Like I
Though,
really enjoyed that much better than I did the TNT order, just because things did feel strange and out of place. There's the whole uniform debacle, which I really don't want to get into because we've all heard it before. It's a hot mess. One thing I do want to talk about though is both episodes that we're talking about do establish Captain Gideon as, you know, our main guy. He's the head of the show. He's the guy leading this crusade. And every time, though, this is not Gary Cole's fault, but I can't help but think of him as Lumbergh from Office Space. That's such a memorable character. And in the comments, I'm seeing the same thing.
Well, I don't want to spoil you, Char, because I know you're watching West Wing for the first time, so I won't spoil what character he shows up as in the West Wing. But I will say he does show up as So people in the comments, Char has not seen West Wing.
No
or
spoilers, please. I'm really enjoying this show, and yes, I'm watching West Wing almost 20 years later.
I will say the nickname of his character is Bingo Bob, and so it's hard to see him as Bingo Bob commanding a starship. So.
Okay, between that and Lumbergh, and Mr. Brady, Gary Cole has had a hell of a career, hasn't he?
He's not often the strong main character. So.
Oh my God, Bingo Bob, that is giving me flashbacks to Better Call Saul when Jimmy, the character of that show, is kind of trying to gain clients at the old folks' home. Oh my God. I cannot. What season does this happen?
It's going to be a while. I think it's going to be season 5.
Oh, I got a while to go. We're getting to the end of season 2. Dang. Okay, well, we're just going to have to binge that much harder. Oh my gosh. Okay, so
also though, I just want to note real quick. Sorry to interrupt. I don't want to note real quickly. They contradict themselves because watching Racing the Night as the pilot, Gideon says about Max, like, you know, we're stuck with you because we said we wanted IPX to give us, you know, a guy, and you're who they gave us. I'm like, that's not what happened. I just watched Warzone. He was the guy in the planet, and you still want that guy. I was like,
right, exactly. You handpicked him, dude. You said he's going to be a pain in the ass, but he's your pain in the ass.
So maybe there's 2 timelines in Crusade. One of the red uniform timeline and the not red uniform timeline. And they don't exist in the same.
We are not doing this. We are not doing this.
There's Prime Crusade, and then there's...
Oh, and then there's Kelvin. That's got to be bellhop uniforms, right? Oh, God.
The bellhop universe.
Bellhop universe. Oh, no. That makes for a great hashtag, though. Oh, my gosh. Okay, have you seen American Gothic? Summer mentions this show, and apparently Gary Cole is in it, and she says that he plays the best character. I have not seen the show.
Neither have I.
Okay, well, I'll add it to my endless list of shows that's going to take me decades to watch. I like Gary Cole as an actor. Don't think that I'm trying to criticize him. Not really. He's played some very memorable characters, though. Yeah. So, all right. How about I want to go back to Warzone for just a moment, because I think one of the strengths of that episode is establishing the Drock as our bad guys. I think maybe we see them a little bit more maybe in Racing the Night, but I kind of get the better sense of who the Drock are and why they suck in Warzone. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because it's been a long, more than a second since I've seen Call to Arms. Because I almost think of... Sorry, you're going to have to correct me with my Babylon 5 knowledge. The Drock... The shadowy aliens that Londo sees on Centauri Prime that are kind of like shadowy. You know what I'm talking about? Is that supposed to be? Is that the Drock or is that a different species?
That's the Drock. Yeah, because the Drock are essentially taking over Centauri Prime via the Royal Court and the Keepers, and
because it's like they're almost out of phase when they walk. It was very. Am I correct? You know, it's very cool. And then in Warzone, it's just like they look. I know you would know this. So I'm sorry if that one doesn't. So from Doctor Who, you remember Char? 10th Doctor's Christmas Invasion, that species he fought, that's what the Drock look like. Like they just got like the white, alien mask on top, and I'm like, it's not as. I mean, I don't want to say it's bad costuming, because I try to be positive. It's hard to make these shows, but Warzone, I was like, I would have like done something to make it more, because it's like once you see a costume, it's almost true of any alien costume or monster costume. When you see it like in full light, It's not scary.
Yeah.
So I wish they could have like done something to tone it down or add darkness or do something, because it's just when you see like 5 of them with like the white mask that they all pulled over their head, it's like
Yeah, then they're just kind of more aliens.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of like the shimmery.
Oh yeah, that's
I mean, BC mentions that was because the first costume for those guys was not quite up to speed.
Didn't get any better.
I mean, it worked.
Yeah.
It was great. They should have just gone with the good thing. How about we talk also about the Drock plague? Okay, so we've got this thing in both episodes.
I don't know about you, Earth does not take a plague well. They were not.
Thank you.
I don't know if you've seen how Earth handles a plague. Not well.
This is where I wanted to go. Okay, the show and also the episode of Babylon 5 with the Margab plague. You rewatch those in 2020 and you've got whole new context. Am I right? Oh my God. Just the hysteria of people, which I guess is better portrayed than in in Warzone. I almost said Warlord. That's a Voyager episode. Where, the guy, I guess that's why the fight breaks out, right? And it's because people are scared and afraid and they don't know what's going on. And you see all that news footage, which is in modern day clips of things happening. Yeah, I guess, is this just human nature? We are prone to overreaction. We do not react well or calmly with any rationality whatsoever. It's just panic, panic, panic. We're going to die.
That was in 5 years too. I mean, that's this. I mean, man, if something acted quicker than that, we would be in trouble. Not good.
People don't like lockdown. That's for sure.
Oh my God, lockdown for 5 years, man, that'd be bad.
Ooh, yeah, and then you're gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, there's no TV after a year, and fine, but after that, riots.
So you know what? 2020 doesn't look that bad in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
At least, I mean, we're not even quite a year into this, but here we are, and yeah, we're not coping very well. So Summer has a great comment too in 1918 with the Spanish flu and that pandemic. If you go back and read news articles, people were anti-maskers then too. This is not a new thing. This is just humans being humans. We're dumb. That's all this is. We are dumb and stubborn and stupid, and we're going to kill ourselves. Guys. Anyway. So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that note got in there because in 2020, they really are somewhat different. Also, everything is on fire here in California. I want to mention that. I hope those of you who are in California, wherever you are, I hope you're safe and breathing halfway okay. It's not great here, but I know Northern California is even worse than we are. And I know BC is there, and be safe, guys. The world is just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're
I can't.
On my side of the country, or at least, where the East Coast or East Side is. We're now on our S's in hurricane season. So,
Oh, wow.
It's all Sally.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's September. Yeah. Yikes. So, now I forget what happens if we go through the whole alphabet. Do we just start over?
I think they use double letter. No, we've done it before. And now I can't remember because unfortunately,
yeah, it did happen. I remember it was like, do you have to do like double A, double B or something?
Yeah.
Hurricane Aardvark.
I think iTunes just supplies a password and says, "Do you want to use that?" So I think that's
Gotcha.
So it'll be Hurricane ampersand $sign. Yeah.
Super Dave says we are still a young species. We'll grow up sometime. Gosh, I hope so. I hope in the next couple millions of years before we destroy the planet so that we can't even exist here. We can figure it out by then.
Yeah, and then we evolve into balls of light and get into encounter suits. So, spoilers.
It's true. We're going to become Vorlon-esque and go beyond the rim. I mean, if we survive. I feel like that's a big if. What if those are actually cockroaches? Because they will outlive us all.
Now, I have a question as far as, if we were to do like a serious, which counts as the better first episode, or not better, but as the real first episode, right? This could be our argument. So I'm trying to remember from, and I can't, but from like all Babylon 5, except for season 5, all of our opening credits have scenes from episodes, obviously.
Season 1 kind of didn't.
Well, you're right. It was just the rotating heads. I was season 2, but anyway.
Yeah.
But
well, season 1 was the Starfield, if I'm
That's
recalling
true.
correctly, and then 2 through 4 had,
But
you know,
it didn't hit me until watching it. Racing in the Night has all of the intro scenes in the credits.
Yes.
It's him on the
Yes.
space motorcycle. It's Max doing that stupid dream. It's not all of them. Like, it doesn't have the dance that Max does. But it has Drina in the tunnels. It has like 3/4 of the scenes in the opening credits is from Racing the Night.
Oh, that's an interesting observation. I didn't pick up on that, but you are right. Yeah. Okay, another thing about Gideon, we got to backtrack just a second. Gideon on the motorcycle, they're trying to make him look real badass. Do you buy it?
Like, he's wearing his trying to remember his real name, Daredevil glasses, like the red tint.
Evel Knievel?
No, the comic character from the Netflix series. Can't think of his real name. Anyway, yeah, it's it's one of these things, like, because again, I'm not here to criticize Crusades too much, but like after B5, and we all, the CGI in B5, whatever, and some of the sad, whatever. But
improved.
It's fine. But like for Crusade, like, things didn't get better. I mean, I guess, I don't know, maybe they had less money or something, which, whatever. It's I'm not going to sit here and, sets and money and all that. It's all about the story and how they do it. But yeah, because I think Crusade in a lot of ways was more ambitious as far as the settings. Because like B5 was, the CGI station, the interior. That's basically 90% of it. We go to other planets. This one is we're on an alien city, for like all of Racing the Night, which is very ambitious because the CGI city. And so, yeah.
Sure. There's so much more CGI, especially in Racing the Night. You've got the space battles, you've got the planet stuff, you've got the motorcycle footage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as much as I love Gary Cole, and I do buy him as the captain, once I shake, him being Lumberg and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, him on the motorcycle, I find just kind of goofy looking. Like, he's no Chris Pine on the motorcycle, if you will. Okay, yeah. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm sorry, Gary Cole. I love you. I'm just not sure if that's what they should have done with you.
So BA is not the initials you think of when you see
GC.
Him. Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure what they should have done with him, but yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't quite work for me. But I think you are right. I don't know if Crusade had more of a budget. For a fact, if anybody out there does, I know we have folks who are in the chat who know a lot more about the show than I do. If they had more money, they sure used it. That's for sure. But it does not hurt that CGI technology grew by leaps and bounds from the beginning of B5 to when they were doing Crusade. They could do so much more with it. And every subsequent year, you could see more and more detail, and they were doing more with it.
Yeah, Matt Murdock. Sure. Thank you, Super Dave. Yes.
Oh, okay. Matt Murdock. All right. Hey, let's go into the comments real quick. Okay, we've got some hurricane talk. Greek letters is kind of a thing. Let's see. Oh, we're having some lower decks talk, which I would love to do. Don't get me off topic, guys. You know how we get on tangents on this show. If Norm were here, that would be it. This is all we're talking about Crusade. We're moving on to lower decks.
All right. Well, before we started recording, I did pitch to Char that I can't remember his name. That's how bad it is. The XO of Crusade is sort of, to me, the Rutherford of Crusade. They just don't know how to use them.
Daniel Day Kim.
Yeah.
His character, who is so sadly ignored as the series goes on. He starts off strong.
Yeah. Just wears then yeah, that's it.
He just wears the headset and stays on the bridge. He's sort of like the Chakotay of the Excalibur. Hate to say. He doesn't get to do the exciting stuff.
Was it I'm trying to remember because the two episodes are now going to my mind. Was it Racing in the Night where they had like the two techs there at the console and like they both had glasses, and I couldn't tell whether it's because they both had glasses or like to work at the console you need special space glasses.
Yeah, and there's that weird green light shining on them.
Yeah, it was just very odd. Like those extras got a lot of screen time, so good, claps to them.
They got the SAG cards for them. They were going to put them to use.
It's just
something like that.
It's an oddly. I mean, I'm not a director, but it's just a very odd shot of like the two people in glasses. Because they're not even the main focus. They got a lot of screen
time.
I know, and then the XO like takes, one of their position. It's when it's game time, when it's red alert, and I'm like, oh, okay, that guy.
Yeah, no, that is interesting framing. Why these particular extras? Were these going to be the Corwins, possibly, of the Excalibur?
The Corwin twins.
I don't. The Corwin twins. I love it. Of course, Crusade never got far enough for us to really find that out. But wouldn't that have been interesting if that had been a little bit of foreshadowing of that kind of development? These seemingly forgettable characters very prominently in your vision for all of about 20 seconds, and then they'll eventually creep in to the hierarchy just a little more. That might have been kind of cool. You know, that's the thing about this show is it had potential. There was a good story here, and just we'll never know.
I think Racing the Night is just a better story because, I think with Warzone, it's just, but most of Warzone is just we're setting up the characters, which again, not exciting. I mean, that's 3/4, and then like they land on the planet, and there's a distract signal, and fight. Whereas Racing in the Night, mystery, death. You find the mystery, and then you talk with the person. Then there's this deal with the devil, and then I thought there's a whole lot of stuff because again, it's showing who's this captain. Again, if that's what I'm framing Racing the Night is who is Matthew Gideon, and I think this is what you see because you see, he does a lot of stuff. He rides motorcycles, he does deals with the devil, all that stuff. But I thought that it gave more of a spectrum of what that was. Because then you have Max, aka the Ferengi of the series, who's like, he's all like this.
He's profit, baby.
Yeah. He's like doing the thing with his hands,
I never thought about him as the Ferengi, but you're so right because he's such an IPX whore. Oh my God. He's their cheerleader for sure.
Yeah. Well, it was a little heavy in the beginning of Racing the Night. It's like, I forget the phrase, but like, yes, but corporations last forever because it's about profit.
I know.
I'm like, you're like really thick, buddy. God. Really thick.
Did you really groan at that line?
Yeah.
I groaned at that line really hard. Just like, really, buddy? Really? That's gross. I don't want corporations to live forever, especially IPX.
He called Gaddy inhuman. It's just he's just doing too much. You don't do
that. That's the great thing, though, is it shows so much about who Eilerson is. Like, you want to hate him. You're going to love to hate him. And that's exactly what you're supposed to do with the character at this point. He gets the job done. He's an a-hole.
Because that's the thing. I think you can make a cartoon, person, but like he's actually really skilled. He does his job really well. You can't not have him. So I think that's what makes him an interesting character, in as much as he is. And people can agree or disagree.
Oh, sure.
But I think because he's so good at what his core competency, he may have bad intentions, but he's really good at what he does.
Yeah. Or as Super Dave says, sleazeball. That's a very good descriptor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I think Warzone, for as much as it puts introduces them and gives them a really good introduction to us, I kind of feel like Racing the Night goes into even more detail, like giving you the details you need within the context of the story. And I'm particularly thinking of Galen and Darina.
Mm-hmm.
Where they have that exchange about like, hey, she wants to know some things. Why can't you tell me the things? And he's saying, you're not ready. And well, why not? And blah, blah, blah. It's creating an interesting dynamic for these two, and they're kind of our fish out of water characters. So, of course, they're going to kind of band together a little bit. Also, one thing I do appreciate about Racing the Night is it establishes that Galen is going to just kind of come and go however he pleases. He's sort of on board for the mission, but only when it's convenient for him, at least in my opinion. That's a big problem I have with Galen in this show, is just it seems like he kind of does what he wants to do. I get it. He's a technomage. He's allowed. But that sets up the expectation. Without it, when I was watching the TNT order for the very first time, I was just like, who is this jerk? And why does Gideon even care? So not only do we get like that context, but we also get the context between Galen and Gideon, that they have some sort of relationship too. And we get a little bit of background, just enough for a first episode.
I'll just say that's the cool thing, I think, about Racing the Night, that by episode 9, if you're watching it that way, might be getting a little old, but it depends on your point of view. But I think when you set it up at the beginning, that Darina calls him out on his BS. Oh, I thought we were saving up information if we had it. And he's kind of like, okay, I see what you're doing.
Right. She calls him out on his BS, and she's right.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he doesn't completely relent. So
and then
that's complicated.
Also, in the comments, they're talking about the Apocalypse box, which I think is, again, if this is the first episode, you kind of want to end on on some kind of button or some kind of note or just something that's like, oh, what more is coming? Because Racing the Night, as much as we said it might be better, it's still pretty standard, you know. But at the end, by having that mystery box, which again, I think, again, it's been a second, but we've seen it in maybe 1 or 2 episodes before. But if this was the first episode, you just know there's a mystery box. And you're like, what's this about?
Come on.
Because we just learned about the Gideon being guy, and in the end, you're saying mystery box.
Yeah, which almost makes you wonder, what does Gideon need Galen for when he's got the mystery box to give him some answers and some guidance on where to go?
I mean, so everyone else took the sailboat, but he took the mystery box. So
it kind of makes you wonder, well, then how is Galen going to make himself relevant? And that is, you could argue, well, that's when he's going to show up to reveal something new that only he can. That could actually be using that character to the advantage. Whether that was effective or not, I really need to revisit the show and kind of reevaluate that. I can't really say right now.
Yeah. Expect me when you see me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But honestly, like the Apocalypse box, as we're calling it, that's one of the most interesting things about the whole episode. I would say, like, as far as being a first episode, Racing the Night, it's a better story overall, has more structure, has more intrigue, has more action overall, I would say. Like, if you had Warzone as a pilot, that's cool. That would be fine. And then Racing Night could be officially episode 1. But I don't know. It's still fairly. It's just getting the party started. It's not going to blow your pants off, but you're going to figure out what's going on, and it's going to be enough to keep you interested. You're gonna keep watching for all of the whatever it is, 43 or so minutes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Racing the Night takes your head off, at least if you're CGI Galen. So
it's so true. Yeah. And honestly, that ancient race or whatever they are, I mean, there's an interesting structure there. They're this is 1,000 years for them that their species was
got the shadow flashback,
so to speak. Yeah. They haven't found a cure yet, so that really sets up the stakes, right? Earth has 5 years before they're all dead, and these guys didn't get it done? Well, we're in trouble, aren't we? We're a big effing trouble. So I kind of like that. It really heightens the stakes for me.
No, in some ways,
one thing we haven't talked about yet.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I want to talk about the score, because this is a very hot point for Crusade. I feel like there's a whole lot of love it or hate it. You know, most people take sides. And I have two very differing opinions between these two episodes.
Here we go. Lay it on us.
Okay. Warzone, not good. Bad musical cues. It's when he's trying to cue us that there's high action going on, it's too much. He goes too far. Racing the Night, however, pretty nice. You know, I mean, I really do feel like Evan Chen, they brought him in to be different. He did do different. He was not Chris Frankie when a lot of people wanted Chris Frankie, but I respect the fact that they were trying to do something different. And, I mean, they're giving a guy a chance, a brand new guy who nobody knew about, which I can appreciate, you know. Shout out to the unknowns out there who are brilliant in their own right. Evan Chen has since gone on to have a good career, just not in television. Now, that said, though, as he was working on it, I feel like he got more of the hang of it. He really could have done brilliant work had Crusade gone on longer. What do you think?
Yeah, it reminds me, sorry to reference so many other things, but I know at least you're familiar with this, but I think other folks are too. It kind of reminds me, I know if you've only been watching old Doctor Who for 2 or 3 seasons, but Murray Gold was the composer of New Doctor Who from 2005 until all the way to the 12th Doctor. And so in all the music that you may or may not have heard by now. But anyway, with the 13th Doctor under Chibnall, we had a new composer whose name escapes my mind, which I know you've watched. But like his is kind of almost kind of like Crusade, where it's much more ethereal, non-traditional, as far as, you know, it's I don't know how to, I'm not a music person, know how to describe it, other than it's not like beats and something recognizable. It's more of emotional, ethereal, kind of like with Crusade. And so it's for me, it's hard to, with Crusade, with the composer, kind of like you said, there's no like, when I put on a B5 soundtrack, because I have 2 CDs of Chris Frank, like I can listen to it. Nice. Oh, that's from That's from season one. That's from, and when I would listen to something, I listened to the Crusade soundtrack, I'd be like, they're all, does it, I don't know where it's from. It's all the same. It sounds like, I don't know. And so,
okay.
But I like
So
the different. I like doing different, but it's just that there's nothing kind of recognizable to hold on to. It's all sort of like.
So it's not very distinctive for you. And, you know, it's possible that over time he would have come up with those more thematic things, because I agree, Chris Franke was great at putting those kinds of themes together. And just complete side note, I love the way he puts in the electric guitar to a sci-fi soundtrack. It gets different. And the way he's putting that in with an orchestra. I can't think of many other people who have done that. It was freaking great. Now, that's not to say Evan Chen could not have done something just as brilliant. He just didn't get that chance. Because, I mean, season one had its beats, but really, the further you go, the better the soundtrack gets. Because, like, I'll listen to Severed Dreams, and I know beat by beat what's playing as that music is going, right? So, yeah, with Crusade, I haven't watched it enough. I haven't listened to the music enough to really go for that, but it's not to say that that could not have happened. Yeah,
Earl Grain, Segun Akinola is the current composer of Doctor Who. Yeah, like I said, I don't mind. Like you said, I don't like different. Even if we don't like it, I'd rather try something new. You know, you've done a series for 5 years.
Sure.
Well, you gotta branch out every now and then. I mean, we all love to have the same
different attitude,
but
different sound.
And I would have
it was interesting how polarized though.
And I wonder if they would have changed the title sequence every year in Crusade if they kept on, because was it, and again, it's starting to glean into my head. It's either Warzone or Racing the Night does the intro, you know, where Galen's like, "Who are you? What do you want?"
They both do. So I also have in my notes, I mean, I kind of like how it's almost old-fashioned in how the theme for the show encapsulates the overall mission of the show. Just in case this is your very first time watching the show, you can figure out what it's about from the intro. Shows don't really do this anymore. You get maybe 6 seconds, and then they play two notes, and then that's it. This is the story
all about how my life got flipped.
Yo! Speaking of which, I heard there's a Fresh Prince reboot possibly in the works. We're rebooting everything from the 90s.
I think it's a reunion, so I think that's better.
Oh, well, that could be interesting. I mean, I like Will Smith, so I'm down for that. But the 90s X-Files type font that has, puts into lettering across this, that's not aged well. That's very 1999. Hate to say.
I would say it kind of reminds me of there's a certain, I forget, it was a skit. I don't know if it was SNL or whatever, but it was them coming up with the intro for Lost, which was not. I didn't watch it that much, but I do know the beginning, and they finally settled on screensaver. You know, if you've ever seen the Lost theme,
they kind of did. It's just Lost in fuzzy letters, and ooh, Lost. It's the show Lost, and then we go.
So that kind of works with that show, because what's it about? What's the intro about? What's the show about? It all.
You're
works.
lost.
Yeah, but I guess
it's with 24. Did you ever watch that show?
No, but no. Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. So it's 3 seconds. It's 24, and it's a clock. And it goes beep, beep.
Sorry,
beep.
Not to go to the chat, but Super Dave, I hate to contradict you, but you're wrong. They did reboot. It was
what?
They did, and I can't remember where it was on. Was it Amazon Prime? It's Google it. There is a reboot of Reboot because I actually liked it. It was kids. And then there was an episode where they referenced the original Reboot. Yes, so there you go.
You'll have to excuse me, guys. It's so hot in this room. I had to turn on a fan. This is It hasn't been it's not hot like it was last week. It's not 115 degrees, but this room, when I cut off the circulation, I die. Anyway, speaking of the comments, I do have to agree with you, Summer. The music that Evan Chen composed for Ellerson's Porn, you can't beat that. It's great. It really is. I mean, I want to know what sort of research he did for that. Because he knew what he was doing. That was really, really good. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're not quite done yet, but we should maybe start wrapping things up a little bit. Are there any other points about either of these episodes that you want to make, Philip? And our listeners?
Yeah. No, I think... Like I said, it's the first episode. Well, I mean, people know this. I'm not telling you anything people don't know. I mean, the first episode just kind of sets the tone, sets the mission. What do you want more of? and I just think watching it with kind of new eyes, with my new red sunglasses, is that Racing the Night does make me wanting more if I view it that way. Whereas Warzone is like, yeah, you remember Babylon 5? We're doing a new thing. Go in the journey with us.
I like that a lot. That is a great way to describe it. Where if I were wanting to introduce somebody to Crusade, I think that's what I'm going to say from now on, where you can watch A Call to Arms if you want. You don't have to. And if you want the prelude, sort of like how The Gathering is the prelude to Babylon 5, you don't have to watch it. It might be helpful, but you don't have to.
No.
I would recommend Warzone as the primer, and then get into Racing the Night and watch the Sci-Fi Order. That is what I recommend. Now, I want to know from everybody, what do you recommend? Because I know there's going to be JMS purists out there who say, no, you need to do the JMS correct order because that is correct. That is the rule of law. Well, the Sci-Fi Order was his rule of law way back when, and like I said at the top of the show, it's sort of like anything goes as far as Crusade. I mean, do it in whatever freaking order you want. The show is a mess. So, yes, I said the quiet part out loud.
Because as far as I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, Crusade's not on any streaming service. Am I wrong? But anyway, so as far as
I can't say I've looked.
Because I know B5 was on Amazon Prime. But anyway, but if it's on disc order, I'm not doing that much work with my DVD box, guys. Whatever's on disc 1 is where I'm going to start. You're going to have me jump in episodes. It's how much work it is to open a DVD. I could hurt my back or something. So
Well, we don't want injuries for watching a TV show. That's just
streaming. I'm lying on my sofa. I can just pick up my Fire Stick remote and do this. Make it easy. Folks.
That's the 21st century. Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I don't know if anything is available as far as streaming goes. You can probably buy it on Amazon Prime, I want to say. I don't know. Let's look this up real quick. We'll see what we can do here. Because until very recently, Babylon 5 was on Comet TV, and it was on Amazon Prime for a while, and both of those things have since been revoked, possibly for putting Babylon 5 on HBO's streaming service.
Oh,
at least that's what I've heard. That's not confirmed.
A lot of weird stuff is going on there. Not weird, but like stuff is just going on there, like Powerpuff Girls or like
everything.
Yeah, and it's just HBO's obviously that's the smart thing to do because it's very well. And this is a whole other topic I know, but getting people to add that extra streaming service because most people are Netflix, Hulu, Prime, somewhere in between that.
Right.
I'm an all access.
You're reaching a point where you got to pick and choose which streaming services you want because, it's almost too much now. You've got to pick and choose. So as far as streaming Crusade goes, you can get it on Amazon Prime. You do have to buy it. So it's $1.99 to buy an episode, $14.99 for the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's not terrible. If you want to have it, you can get it.
Crusade's going to be in the bargain bin anyway when you go to wherever. So it's not like you're going to...
Just go to your used media store. You'll probably find a copy. Yeah. Support your local bookstores. I'm sure they need the biz. So
turn in some books, get some credit. You're probably 3/4 of the way there buying your Crusade for a season.
There you go. Oh, Earl has a great suggestion, Phillip, so you don't injure yourself. Get the cat to do it.
The cat doesn't do dishes. We're at work all day. I don't know what he does. Good Lord, get a job, man.
Seriously, they're freeloaders.
They're saying that Slice of Sci-Fi is saying you can buy it on Amazon Prime. It's a little bit cheaper than DVD. So that way you can buy it once, click, and then you can still be on your sofa and watch whatever order you want. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Getting the stream version is a little cheaper than getting the DVDs. Nevertheless, you still have to buy it. Of course, there's other ways you can get it, but I won't completely advocate for that. I wouldn't know anything about that.
I don't talk to those people at the Zocalo. I just go to the station-approved merchants.
You got to go down below for those.
No, I don't. Does this look like a guy that knows how to go down below?
It's risky, but it can happen. Things all sorts of things happening down below.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Super Dave says that cats just pretty much say quack all day.
That's true.
It's true.
Stay in the pond. Wear the sailor suit. Get into adventures, rewriting history. That's all that.
All sorts of, and then I don't know about your cat, but my cats go on super secret cat adventures that they can't tell me about all the time.
See, ours tells us, but there's a translation problem. It really wants to tell us things, but... Which I think was interesting. Was it, again, not to pick on things, was it Crusade, I think I have my notes, Crusade at the end, or near the end, when they're talking to the Drock are all like, wah, 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 wah. And then like, oh, it turns out they speak English, which is, fine. But in the middle of the episode, when it's just the Drock, like it's a scene of just the Drock talking to each other, they're speaking English. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Right.
I mean, that's just for our convenience. Now, why didn't they just, or did they subtitle it?
Why don't they just subtitle? That was, I thought, like the oddest thing.
They should have, though, because if they're going to make that disparity, right, to give Iverson something to do.
From a writing standpoint, it did mess up. Like when they're like, oh, I'm like, he just spoke English like 20 minutes ago. I don't know.
Super Dave says we need to borrow the game's translator. Maybe we do. Why didn't we think of that?
I know.
Also, why are there not more non-human crew members? I mean, okay, I get it. This is Earth's mission. But at this point, when you're involving, like, say, we have Rangers in Racing the Night, could we not have had somebody? I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, and I think
okay, we got a Technobaj, and we have Darina. Okay, but they look humanoid. I want some Minbari. I want Drazi. I want Gayam. I want...
See, I think that was the cool thing about Racing the Night, because in the dream sequence, you got to see our stereotypical aliens. I don't even forget all their names off the top of my head.
It's true, like we start off with that sequence.
The three main aliens that you always see causing trouble. And then, yeah, they're always complaining. But anyway, but then in the graveyard sequence, again, if this is a pilot and you're like, oh, I know that, I'm a Babylon 5 fan, you get to see like, that's a Narn transport. That's a... Earth fighter. That's So I was like,
that's one of the coolest things is you could pause that and see so many different ship designs. I had that in my notes and I forgot all about it. That's such a great thing to bring up. Yeah, so much stuff to check out there. That's cool. That's a cool little Easter egg for those who know and for those who don't. They explain it for you. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Earl has a great comment that just came up. Mm-hmm. My thought on the largely human crew. Earth is America in this scenario. You brought this on yourselves. You went out and got in over your heads, and this is the result. It's all you, kids. Earl, you might be right. And this is a very, I kind of want to say this is a trope of sci-fi series where Earth is actually America, and we got to be the exceptional heroes, right?
Yeah.
This is what we do.
Since we made the Lower Decks reference, like we had our Canadian episode, so we were sort of upper half North America and Lower Decks, but still Lower Decks, or still North America.
Lower Decks. Lower Decks.
Yeah, and I think, anyway, I don't want to get any soapboxes, but most of the crew looks.
Oh no! Please get on the soapbox. We still have 3 minutes. Go.
Most of the crew looks alike that are the humans. Other than the Doctor and the XO. Well, let's not go. But anyway,
right.
But then again, and I'm not saying anything's on purpose. I'm just saying what I'm watching. The characters of color are the most underused. XO Doctor, and so. But again, I'm not trying to.
I hate to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of white people on this show.
Yeah.
And they could have done better.
So, because basically,
there could have been a more diverse cast. There really could have been. And come on. The further we go in the timeline, let's mix things up a little more. This is not. I get it. Like it's not. The goal is not to be necessarily representation of everybody on Earth, but it could have had a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. Yeah. So I don't know. Any final words? Like, do you have a winner as to which one? I think I know.
Yeah,
which one you pick.
I'm excited to. I know there's there's 60 million versions of how you can watch Crusade. I've only ever watched the DVD version, which I'm sure was the original airing order. Well, maybe it wasn't, but anyway, that's what I watched. It's DVD order. But I'm very curious to watch in a new order because, again, Crusade's not my favorite. But when I was watching Racing in the Night and viewed it, because I'm sure when I watched Racing in the Night as the 9th episode, I'm like, oh. More of this. But when I watched it as the first episode, I'm like, okay, this is interesting and exciting. And so maybe watching it in a different order that's approved or that's recommended might bring a new approach to how I view Crusade. So I'm all for trying something new because I want to like it, but I just generally don't.
Yeah, well, I think all the behind the scenes problems were a huge contributing factor to that. It could have been a great show, and it just. It almost was never in the cards to begin with. TNT just, I don't know what they thought they signed up for, but they clearly didn't want it, and they screwed it up, and it's really too bad, because it could have been a great show. We know that JMS can write a good 5-year drama. That much is for sure. So to have him write another, hey, yeah, I'm up for that anytime. Let's go.
Yeah, it's also
sadly, we will never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll just say, and I'm sorry, it's 30 seconds here. Some of the acting doesn't always get me, and I don't know whether, because I know we all worship at the altar of JMS, so I don't know if sometimes it's the writing, and not that he could, he can make a mistake or not, or the acting, because like in the Warzone, you have the like, I never bluff, and I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? So, but I think because B5 we had all these great actors. Not that they're not great actors in Crusade, but that's always the thing of when you're comparing it to.
Think it's a little, well, I mean, we got so used to the B5 characters. I just feel like it's missed opportunity where maybe the actors didn't have enough time to grow into their roles so much. Where I don't want to say they're bad actors. I just think they didn't get a chance.
They need a big headpiece with hair coming out of it. That would have really helped them, I think.
That couldn't have hurt.
Find your character. It really helps.
Yeah. And if we were talking about other Crusade episodes, we do have B5 callbacks. I mean, they do show Babylon 5. They go to Babylon 5. We visit Captain Lockley, who I think shines. She's one of the brightest spots of Crusade, in my opinion. But for the purposes of this episode, I totally agree with you. I think Racing the Night is the more interesting, intriguing, more like better story structured, and overall just getting it done first episode. I highly recommend watching the Sci-Fi Channel order. You might have some weird discrepancies with the uniforms going back and forth, but overall, I had a better time watching that episode order than the TNT order. I'll say that much. Because I was very confused by the TNT order. It did not make sense to me. And that, I think, in part was why I didn't love Crusade upon first watch. It was just like, what are they doing? So then the Sci-Fi order kind of helped fix that just a little bit. Yes, because there is some good stuff here. So I'll say that much. Well, while we close up, because we do need to close up now, we are at time. Philip, where can people find you if they want to contact you on the interwebs or check out more of the work that you do?
Sure. If they want to hear me chat about Star Trek for the whole episode, not just every other minute, I do a Star Trek podcast with my two other very long friends on the Nerd Party, City Alpha 3. And if they want to hear Doctor Who with my wonderful wife, we have Time and Space, Doctor Who, also on the Nerd Party. They can find me on Twitter at NC Public Servant.
Cool. Thank you again so much for joining me. This was a great convo. I appreciate you being able to come out and fill in for Norm, because Norm is a little overbooked as it is. And next week, you guys, we are not going to be doing a show. Heads up. Norm is headed off to Florida for a little escapade. And is that where the Shirley Temple is by chance? I don't know. I know in Enterprise, Florida's the place that got destroyed, but in the B5 universe, what the heck is Florida?
Does he have to get a new uniform made? Or is he going to meet with the fashion people? Is that what it is?
That's possible. Yes. I don't know. I'm hoping he'll come back with all sorts of stories about what he did and what this mission was about, but we will have to take next week off. We will be back the following week, of course, with a brand new episode, and he will be Norm will have just landed back with all sorts of stories to tell us, at least I hope. As always, if you want to Gmail us, please do so. It's zocalomarketplace@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at @ohtheprofanity. You can contact Norm at Lounge Lizard. That is LAONG Lizard. And thanks you guys so much for joining all of us. We appreciate you being here, talking Crusade with us. It was a little bit of a departure because we haven't talked Crusade a whole heck of a lot. But I really enjoyed this conversation. So thanks, everybody, for your comments, for participating, and just for joining us, whether you are live or whether you're watching the replay. And, of course, go to the top of the chat if you haven't joined the Discord group. And we're going to keep everything rolling over there. And with that, everybody, we're going to close off the show. I tend to do the veer wave. Norm will say, "Be seeing you," a la Morden. And I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. You can exit however you like, Philip.
Sure. Well, I will do, as far as the next time I'm going to show up here in the Zocalo, expect me when you see me.
That's fitting. Take care, everybody.